So my name is Nadine Bernard. I'm the CEO and founder of Indigivisor Limited. My everyday is to run a business with a team of Indigenous women across the province. We run out of two offices. You're based now in my Sydney office, and my second office is in Dartmouth. We support the private sector and government sector in Indigenous inclusion strategies. So those kind of unpack into communication and engagement, recruitment, retention, policy recommendations, and cultural and awareness training in response to Call to Action 92 of TRC.
So how was this created, and when was it created?
So actually on the 19th of February was the 5th year of Indigivisor. Indigivisor evolved first from, it was a sole proprietorship called Indigivisor Advisory and Consulting, and then we incorporated back in November of 2022, and it just became Indigivisor Limited. I had worked in various roles as an Indigenous relations or Indigenous advisor within the not-for-profit sector, government sector, and private sector. And what I recognized in those roles was this definite need and gap within building relationships with the Indigenous communities for positive outputs that promote towards economic reconciliation. And so there was no one really doing it as an independent entity, so I went ahead and started my own business.
Wow. What was your prior work to before all of starting this?
So I worked as an Indigenous relations advisor with LIUNA, the laborers union here at our local in Sydney. I worked as a senior consultant within the province. I worked as an Indigenous relations for Halifax Regional Municipality. I worked in the not-for-profit sector for an organization that's called IONS now, and helping building their decolonization, educational methods, and a background in business. So I was in accounting for quite a few years, so yeah.
What specific services does this company provide?
So I touched on it a little lightly in my introduction. So I guess the four core services that we offer is the cultural and awareness training, and that's in response to Call to Action 92. So that's helping Canadians in the private sector understand the dark history of Canada and Indigenous people, and that contribute to the intergenerational barriers and complexities that Indigenous people face when trying to move forward. The second service that we offer is a preliminary assessment. So we do kind of a baseline audit of businesses to see where they're at in response to Indigenous inclusion strategy work. And then from that, we produce a recommendations report, so some suggestions on where they could make some changes within their internals to better be an Indigenous inclusive welcoming space or entity. The third one is recruitment and retention strategies. So for effective recruitment and retention strategies, it's doing, intentional outreach, targeting to a certain audience, tailoring job descriptions so that Indigenous people feel more welcome to it. And then the fourth is communication and engagement strategy work. So introducing projects or initiatives to community. We support plain language summaries and environmental assessments so that our communities really understand what they're agreeing to or participating in and how they can actually be engaged through those processes.
So how would you describe your clients? Who are they? The average client, the person that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, how would you describe them?
They would be individuals or departments that are needing one of two things. They are building on their diversity and inclusion strategies, and Indigenous being one of those underrepresented groups that they want to bring into the realm of their workplace. Or are they doing enough to bring Indigenous people within their spaces? The second audience that I would claim would be my client are people who are just starting their reconciliation journey and they don't know where to start. Okay. So that could be mostly at a senior management level, director level, VP level, CEO level, just making the ask like, this is where I want to go, this is what I need, I don't know how to get there. And they come to us and say, how do we do it? And so we just pave out a pathway and a strategy, and we just kind of tackle one thing at a time. And once you give it to them, then they're able to execute on their end.
Do you have any mentors with
I
you right now
do.
with this business journey?
Yeah, one of the things I had learned early, so one of my primary mentors in this, indirectly, I guess, has been my father. My father was an economic development officer for over 25 years. He worked for Olnewag, which is an Aboriginal lending corporation based out of Truro. And from there, he had moved back home and worked for the Union of Nova Scotia, Mi'kmaq here in Sydney. And just being a part of that whole journey, actually right behind you is a picture of him and I on the top when he was winning Economic Developer of the Year through CANDO. Which is a national organization that supports and works with economic development officers in Canada. So he had always talked about business, and he talked about the opportunities and economic reconciliation before it was even like a catchword. Like how do you work towards that? How do you create opportunities? How does our people proactively participate in that sector? And how do we prepare our communities? How do we prepare our workforce through apprenticeship and trades? So he has been my major mentor through the years. I also sought out mentorship and guidance through the Center for Women in Business out of Mount St. Vincent. Judy Richardson has been an amazing mentor and guidance when it came to business, and because having a great idea is great, but how to execute that is a whole other ball game. So understanding what those processes are of just submitting your documents, and when you're transitioning to incorporation, to having a business plan, setting out a forecast, all those things, you need different people to mentor and guide you and give you good guidance on how to follow through on all those pieces.
In the Indigenous entrepreneurship world, how can women be more involved and supported in the entrepreneurship journey?
I'm really impressed with the micro loan over here at the Sydney Credit Union in partnership with, in collaboration with the Halifax partnership. The Sydney partnership, sorry. And it provides a microloan to not only Indigenous female entrepreneurs, but for female entrepreneurs, period, here on the island. And one of the major barriers is that money opportunity. Indigenous entrepreneurs, due to the complexities of the Indian Act, doesn't have equity. Like you don't have equity of your home, you don't have equity of your land, and so when you have nothing to kind of barter to the bank to show that you have some kind of net worth or net value to offer as a bargaining tool, then that makes it really hard to go to the banks and say, like, this is what we have to offer in exchange of trust into a loan. So that's one of the avenues that I see that helps Indigenous entrepreneurs. Another one is the Entrepreneurship Center run by Eileen Paul in Membertou. Having a space and a place that offers specific training and awareness opportunities to help Indigenous female entrepreneurs in starting a business and then kind of the follow through from it.
In terms of the marketing side, what are some marketing strategies that you're doing to get this out to the public?
So we've recognized that, we've been a referral-based business, so we just partner with businesses, and if we do a good job, tell a friend, right? So tell a friend in the business community, sharing some great things in their own networks and on our own. So we have two different conduits that we use right now, LinkedIn for the professional part of it, and the other one is Facebook. So if there's any kind of employment opportunities that are coming up or tendering opportunities that come up, we kind of advertise in both of them. We are just exploring putting together a newsletter, and so of all the projects and people that we've been engaging with in organizations, we'll be sending them a newsletter specifically to kind of tell a little bit more of opportunities and how we can work together on different things, and just letting them be conscious of what's coming.
Do you use social media as a tool, or do you just mostly prefer word of mouth and referrals? Like, do you like Instagram? I know you mentioned Facebook, but Twitter, there's other formats of social media, or do you just stick with what you like, what you know, and word of mouth, and that's good?
So we had to, as a team, decide what was the best social media outlet to use, and who are the decision makers that actually decide on if they're going to procure our services, right? So I didn't think that I would find them on Instagram. We're not a fun business to be involved in. We help meet your need. And so from a professional to a professional, I thought LinkedIn was the appropriate space to be in sharing what kind of services we have to offer to meet their needs and their strategic plans and their targets and goals. And the other piece was on Facebook. So like if it was more of like needing to recruit people to attend an event, needing people to apply to an opportunity, then Facebook is that like global community that you want to be in. And so Twitter had too many kind of word limits that just wouldn't fit where we were. Like you need to kind of advertise more and use the algorithms that can kind of share and people will pay attention to things more. And I just didn't see that Instagram or Twitter would fit that need for how we needed to portray opportunities.
So how are the use of accountants, financial advisors, and lawyers used in this line of business?
So the first would be lawyers in the crafting of the incorporation document. So it was a very intimidating process to be involved in. The sole proprietorship was a little bit more easier. You just walk into your Access Nova Scotia, you fill out the paperwork, you pay for a name search and see if that's viable, and you pay that small fee. But then when you move into that incorporation, that legal binding entity, and you remove yourself from being that person business to an inanimate own business, right? So that's where it's key. And then that HR kind of policy part too, so labor code and meeting those. And accountants is really important in that forecasting and that kind of reconciliation of your records, being able to submit whether you're, because we're not government funded, so we're a revenue generating business that's how we exist. And so having that review and working with an accountant is really key, whether it be we started with a bookkeeper and we've moved into an accountant, and so an accounting firm, actually I should say. Just as we grow and you're moving into bigger projects, your accounting methods and transparency is really important. So yeah, that's how I would say that they're important.
Just advice for anyone wanting to start their own business in the year 2024. I know it's a complex question, you could give so much advice, but just to simplify it for the students in the classroom right now.
I would start by going to your local entrepreneurship or business entities now. Mount St. Vincent has an excellent center for women in business. So whether you're a woman entrepreneur or not, I think that's a good place to start to do outreach. And then they're always open to wanting to guide you in the right direction and a slew of resources that exist out there. Start thinking about a business plan. Like there's lots of funding opportunities that help fund you being able to hire someone to help you in that process. Building a business plan is a massive undertaking and a lot of technical information that you need to insert in that. So being aware, like what are you willing to offer? that's unique, that is that you can charge a value to that service that people will want to be enticed to want to buy. And don't think that business has to be flashy or big. Like it, when I first started, it was just to offer what I knew as an Indigenous person on what I would like to see and how I can contribute to that conversation. Never did I think that being born Indigenous and having that lens was going to be a sellable commodity, right? And so that's what I would tell them. Just do some outreach. Partnership and chambers of commerces are always putting on different events and ask to attend as a student. I've been to many events where they help fund students and sponsor students to attend to expose them to that that business community, and then they can ask those questions like, do I want to pursue that? Do I want to be you? Or how can I create something that is in competition to it, to enhance that opportunity.
Ego igande ha ego gwandu dana he. Hey, ego igande.